So to those of you that maybe don't know how my process works for doing YouTube and things like that, or maybe understand why things aren't as polished as they could be, or some other channels, I'll give you a quick little rundown until I get into my video today. So I go to work, which my job is basically a shelter for dogs, and every day these dogs have to be taken care of. You know, they have to be let out, fed, you know, all this kind of stuff. And the hope is that somebody adopts these dogs, you know, finds a forever home. So you have to take care of them in the meantime, and then once they do find a home, a lot of times people will need some kind of training for the dogs, and that's also something that I do. So I will work with some of these animals prior to them being adopted if they're a little rough around the edges, so that it'll be easier for them to be adopted. So that's kind of what I do. But what you might not know is I get up at 4 a.m. to start my job. So I actually get up at 3 a.m. Leaves me about a half hour to look up any kind of news, gaming related, that I have found. And so basically what I do is I search for gaming news that I might want to do. If I have enough time to record a video, I will do that, let it render, and let that upload while I'm at work. And then when I come home, which I usually come home, I don't work you know, like 8 hours a day like some people do or whatever. It's usually I work from 4 a.m. till around 11 a.m. and then I have about an hour of free time from 11 to 12 or so where I can do videos. That's basically it. Because then I am dutied as a father and, you know, husband figure and things like that. So I have basically an hour and a half a day to do videos, and so that's basically what I do. So some days I notice there's not a whole lot to talk about. There's, you know, it's a slow news day. Today I was looking through like the Eurogamer Digital Foundry stuff, and I was just like, holy cow, it really is a slow news day. They're attacking the PlayStation 5's UI, which I thought was very interesting, the way that they decided to do that, and I wanted to get into this. What's up, everybody? It's me, Crapgamer, with another video. I do have some exciting stuff coming along, so you guys will have to keep that in mind as we go forward. So the name of this article, strangely enough, is 8 months later, I barely use any of the PS5's new user interface features for the snoozers. I mean, talk about just kind of going in on, you know, some kind of random hate. I don't even understand that. Even if you're not using it, you know, are you going to really kind of attack them with the for the snoozers? I don't really understand that at all, but I do want to get into this, and I will link this so you guys can check it out. Like, I would love to know from your guys' point of view, why has the tide kind of turned where the media would pretty much always, you know, love everything that Microsoft would do, or love everything that PlayStation would do, and hate everything that Microsoft would do? What has really changed to kind of warrant this, you know? But anyway, he says, a month before the release of the PlayStation 5, Sony released a video showcasing the new user experience for the console. It was, as you might expect, slick and well crafted. Dozens of new features and changes were designed to be completely catered around you. Now, the new user interfaces are an odd aspect of a new console's release. They don't make or break its success. That's primarily down to the game's raw horsepower, price, and where your friends are going to be playing. Nonetheless, they are an essential component to every console. It's a persistent part of the experience of gaming. You have to look at it every time you boot your console up. But we tend to ignore that it's then where it works well, and a bad interface can ruin a game in session. The PlayStation 3 user interface, for example, become insufferably slow by the end of its life. You still have to wait a good 2 minutes for the PlayStation Store to load there. Microsoft took the unusual step of not developing a bespoke user interface for its new generation of consoles, instead developing a cross-generation interface that builds on the Xbox One interface. That leaves the PS5 with a completely new interface for this generation. It's been over 8 months since the release of the PS5, which has been enough time for Sony to iron out the creases in their operating system, and for players to get adjusted to the new experience. So I think it's also a perfect time to assess just how useful the advertised features have been. Look and feel. He says the PlayStation 4's interface was already quite fast, but slowed down when the game was running, likely because the mechanical hard drive was fully utilized. With its super solid-state drive, PS5 has no such problem. Everything loads up in a snap, even when a game is running in the background. The UI design has been flattened with rounded corners, as is the current trend. Icons are smaller to scale back with high-resolution 4K displays, and give off a minimalist and premium aesthetic. Game artwork takes a bigger share of the screen space, which I think is a nice touch. Where developers have embedded an audio clip, usually the theme tune, into the game's files. It plays as you scroll through the game menu. This also works for PlayStation 4 games, where audio would only play when you scroll down to the game's details. The only things I do miss are themes. They were an integral part of both PS3 and PS4 user interface, and it's a shame it hasn't been brought forward to the current generation. Currently, we're all stuck with the same bland, gray interface and menu music. Sure, themes are a little tacky, but they are one of the few ways users can personalize a generic console. Now, here's the part where I actually kind of agree with them. Yes, I think themes would be pretty dope, pretty cool to have that actually on there. So far, I will agree with that point. As someone who uses their console as a media hub, the number of missing streaming apps on the PS5's launch was extremely frustrating. All the key, well, he's a UK person, media apps, all of them were unavailable. 8 months later, they're still unavailable. It can't be a matter of developing native PS5 apps, since both of these apps are on PS4 as well. So the control center replaced the quick menu for the PS4, which was accessed by holding down the PlayStation button. As the control center is accessible with the tap of the PS button, it's impossible to avoid. See, I don't agree with that. The decision to remap the home screen to holding down the PlayStation button infuriates him. 9 out of 10 times the reason I'm interacting with the UI is to change from one game to another. On the PlayStation 4, it was a simple tap to the home screen where I can see my entire game library. Not so on the PlayStation 5. One tap to the control center, where the best I have is the app switcher, which shows 2 of the most recent games and your media apps respectively. When I first discovered the switcher, I thought it functioned like Xbox's Quick Resume, letting me have multiple games open simultaneously. What a letdown the realization was when my game closed to open another. The switcher should have either be a more comprehensive list to make my PlayStation button take me to the home screen. So basically comparing it apples to oranges to what Microsoft is doing with Quick Resume, it's going to be hard to kind of beat that. Pressing the option button also allows you to customize your control center, although it's currently quite limited. The good news is the upcoming firmware will let you rearrange and hide options, which I think is good. I think that works pretty well. When it comes to cards, they talk about cards. They're designed to provide a contextual information based on what game you have. Now, he might not use cards, right? Basically, you can go to a thing and it tells you how much longer you have left to do that. But I have to say, he can't speak for everybody. Just because he doesn't use cards doesn't mean everybody doesn't use cards. I've used these cards numerous times. One of the main reasons I like to use cards is, like I said, I have a quite busy life at times, and if I have, a free 40 minutes before bedtime, to game, and I want to see how long it takes to basically get through a certain part, well, I have enough time to do it if I start it. This was integral to me beating a game like Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, which would say, well, you're on average 35 minutes away from completing this part. So I really do love that aspect of it. So again, it seems like a very strange thing to complain about. He says, finally, if you have PlayStation Plus, some games provide official help when you're stuck. The idea is that you can avoid having to whip out your phone or laptop and head to a long and overwhelming guide or YouTube video. But the key word here is some games. You can be confident first-party games will almost certainly have guide videos, but such guidance in third-party games is sparse. The onus is on developers to create videos, which multi-platform developers just won't prioritize. Now, that's something I can't really speak much for, but I have used the cards quite often. Picture-in-picture lets you help view a help clip or live stream of a friend using screen share and pin it to any corner of your screen. The problem is it lacks third-party support, which is a problem. You need to get third-party support on there as well. GameBase has arguably had the biggest change to the PlayStation user experience. Instead of creating temporary party chats as you did on PS4, GameBase lets you create a persistent party of up to 100 players. You can use it to send text messages, share media like recorded gameplay, and hop into voice chat. It's similar functionality to a Discord player in this respect. Sony also slowly transitions to a new console. He likes GameBase, but it's an objective improvement over the older interface that makes him feel better. So the conclusion is it's still early on, but he's not really using it. And that's him, right? Like, I get it. He's not really using it. For me personally, one of the things that I like best about what Sony was doing, I really do think that it's very interesting, to say the least. I would also like to say that You know, for me personally, one of the reasons I really like the PlayStation 5 is the new user interface, is the new controller, is the different feel than the PlayStation 4. One of the things that kind of held me back on the Xbox side was the entire situation with you know, the lack of an updated user interface, the lack of a new controller. It didn't really feel next gen. In a lot of ways, the Series X just feels like a 1X to me, right? Like, certainly there's performance things there that are better, but for in large part, that's how it feels. So I think this is kind of baseless, but it is opinionated. But I would like to hear your guys' opinion on this. Sound off, rate, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Rack 'em up, back them up. Crap Gamer out.